anyone know? Anyone? Bueller? Okay. So according to Merriam-Webster, equity is fairness or justice in how people are treated. Now, I think it's more accurately described by this image. On one hand, we have equality, where everyone is given equal chance or equal help in order to reach a goal. And on the other hand, we have equity, where opportunity is given or help is given based on the need of the person, so that overall, in the end, it is more fair. Now, we're all Pepperdine students, and with or without financial aid, we got here. Imagine not being able to come here because not having enough money, or not being able, or being in other ways prevented financially from coming here. Shoot for the stars, they say, but for some, the stars are just farther away. Equity can be used to bridge this gap. Financial, academic equity can foster success for students of all socioeconomic classes. In this presentation, we will be talking about, sorry, I hit the name of that, how first standardized testing is an issue, specifically with the SAT and ACT. And then we will go into a plan on how to solve inequity. Then we're going to visualize how, if this plan comes into fruition, the world will change. Finally, I'm going to end with a step that you can take. First, I need to show you how this is a problem. The American Psychological Association states that research continues to link lower SES to lower academic achievement and slower rates of academic progress as compared with higher SES communities. SES meaning socioeconomic status. This shows that SES can actually hinder academic development. How is this a problem? In Randall Lindsay's book, Best of Corn Equity, he talks about this being a problem in many ways. First, at the school, he included a story from a student. And at the school, they didn't have enough textbooks. And if they did, they were outdated and useless for the class that they were learning in. So they suffered academically. Another thing that happened because the school was inequitably funded was that the bathrooms were closed during the day. So what happened because of this was that one of the students actually got a UTI for not being able to use the bathroom during the day. Now, this issue shows that the lack of equity can lead to academic hindering in many ways, and by not basically meeting human needs. We know that the problem would be very different if the student was financially secure. So now we're going to standardized testing, specifically with the SAT and the ACT. My experience with this is that I'm a twin, and things that would normally cost a parent $400, $500 for 2 years for the SAT cost them twice the amount. So obviously, my parents didn't make this happen. So one thing we did do was get books. Because we had books, we had some help, but I still didn't really know how to use them. Luckily, during my year, I didn't have to take the SAT or the ACT because it was test optional because COVID wouldn't allow for everyone to take the test. However, I know a lot of other people have it a lot worse, and they're forced to take the test. And usually 2 things happen. They either fail and don't try at all, or they put time and effort into studying and making it work with what they have. However, it is more easy for some because they have more money and are able to afford help. Andre Perry says, for what's worth, scores from the SAT and ACT tests are good proxies for the amount of wealth students are born into. They are in contrast with test performance. Now this is showing how large of a role money plays in these tests and how it shouldn't be this way. In this chart by Mark Kantrowitz, you can see that there's an average of 123 points difference between the lowest and the highest income groups. Now this is a problem because it shows that money is way too important in this, and I know that GPA is also used in the calculation of whether a student should come to a college or not. However, it does not accurately represent their hard work and intellect, more how much money they make. Now, you may be wondering, is equity even achievable? The answer is yes. The OECD came up with a 10-step plan that I have shortened for the sake of this presentation. So the first step would be to identify and provide for those who fall behind in school. This would feasibly look like teacher training. Teachers can be trained to help and give special attention to those who fall behind in school and those who aren't as equitably equipped with the tools necessary to succeed. The second step would be to respond to diversity and provide inclusion for minorities and migrants within education. This includes changing the content to make sure that they would like to be in class. So, I don't know about you, but when I was a child and growing up, when I would hear about things that didn't apply to me, I would just stop paying attention. So, this often happens in smaller or younger kids' classrooms. And they can become distracted or stop paying attention when it doesn't include them. So adjusting the content would make them more interested. The last thing we can do is direct resources to students who really need it. So directing resources to students who really need the extra help would help them succeed. And this means not equality, giving everyone the same amount, but equity, giving everyone different amounts depending on their need. This has already started to happen in a New York Times article. They talked about an adversity score. Even though this didn't happen, the adversity score was something that would take into account the socioeconomic status of the surrounding area and the overall rating and quality of the school, and show how, if you're comparing two scores, what a student had to go through in order to achieve that score. Now, I said, even though as this didn't happen, it still shows a step in the right direction towards equality and equity. Another feasible way we can make this happen is to redirect existing funds or tap into private funds in order to fund initiatives such as this, which would be using money to buy tutors for students if we can't just get rid of the SAT and ACT. Now just imagine if this works. Imagine you don't have to break the bank on a tutor for the SAT or the ACT. And imagine that college applications are free. Imagine a world where anyone can afford to dream big. Hard work and intellect could get you a lot farther. Just imagine that. Changes like this have already started. In an article by EdSource, they talk about how the SAT and the ACT have already been dropped by the UC school system, and how in 2025 they're actually providing their own standardized testing. And this is a chance for more equity to be applied and making either this test free or making resources available to all students in order to help them prepare for this test. So it's more of a test of intellect and hard work rather than money. So in this presentation, I talked about inequity in, first of all, standardized testing, the SAT and the ACT. Then I went into a plan about how to fix this. Then we all visualized what it would look like, or what the world would look like, if we put this plan into action. And finally, my call to action is to join the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council here at Pepperdine. Hosted by SGA, this council advocates and educates about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We even pass resolutions to make this change happen here on campus. So now, next time you see this question, you can answer it with something that I advocate for. Thank you.